This December, leaders from the global community will gather in Copenhagen in hopes of signing a new climate change treaty. Such an agreement is desperately needed if the world is to mitigate and cope with the effects of climate change. Across the world, activists and communities are lending their voices to this call for change. Hundreds gathered at Sasol's headquarters in Johannesburg on September 10 to protest the coal, oil and gas industry's contribution to climate change. According to families living near Sasol's Secunda plant in Mpumalanga, there's an urgent need for action.
Sasol, I charge about the serious because Sasol take upside imali pambi. So mina ngicabanga ukuthi igama befanele ivo ingene kulo. Because government Sasol ngabeyashilo ukuthi ikhiphe ama isize abantu. Fanele icompany Sasol ithathe government.
Simply put, climate change results from the breakdown of the natural cycle through which the Earth and its atmosphere accommodate energy received from the sun. The Earth's climate naturally goes through warm and cold periods. It usually takes hundreds of years to complete one cycle. But human activities over the last 200 years, particularly the burning of oil, coal, natural gas and the clearing of forests, have increased the concentration of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. This leads to more solar radiation being trapped in the Earth's atmosphere. In turn, the Earth's surface warms up. This results in the melting of ice, dry lakes, hot weather conditions and flooding. This was no ordinary protest. South Africa's four big polluters, Sasol, Eskom, Arcelor Mittel and nuclear energy were put on mock trial. Written by Kyla Davis of the well-known theatre company, the play featured representatives from each company. They were represented by a lawyer. A judge presides.
Lawyer, my mind is made up. Your clients are guilty. Guilty for the environmental degradation of our land.
Witnesses were called from the affected areas.
Eskom ama-price akhe aphezulu. Thina abantu abangasebenzi abahluphekile uyasicindezela.
The crowd was encouraged to take part, shouting Yebo and Pansi throughout the play. At the end, the protesters found each company guilty of contributing to climate change. And while the protest was about as noisy as it could be, Sasol remained silent behind its intimidating fence.
Why are you using the kids? If they were in here working with us, then at least we see the changes. So from now on, I'm going to see the changes.
The protest was organized by Earthlife Africa. Spokesperson Tristan Taylor says they decided to hold the protest outside Sasol's doors because it's one of the worst climate change offenders. The company has plans to build another plant that will only add to the climate change problem.
They want to build a coal to liquids plant. That's where they take coal and turn it into petroleum. It's a heavily carbon intensive process. So about 70% of all the carbon that enters a plant goes up into the atmosphere of carbon dioxide. And for many years, Sasol's Secunda plant was the world's single largest emitter of carbon dioxide. So it is the reason why South Africa is the 14th highest per capita emitter in the world. We have the world's most carbon intensive economy. So we are a distinct part of the problem of climate change. Unlike the rest of Africa, which doesn't produce, we in South Africa do. And so in order to change that, we have to change our industrial policy, which means no more coal to liquid plants in South Africa.
ACCFP Research Fellowship is one of a number of organizations within South Africa working on impact and adaptation of climate change on the local level.
Little has been done in the past, the urban area level, so I'm trying to do that. Advising the councillors and then as well as to build the capacity to the communities. Capacity building programs, teaching scholars and students. We go around schools telling children what is climate change and how to fight the impacts of climate change using the language that they use at schools.
Considering the fact that Eskom and Sasol are gathered the biggest energy providers in the country, whether the government will be able to exert pressure on them to practice reduction on their gas emissions remains to be seen. Mandla Masingi, reporting for Community Media for Development Productions in Johannesburg.